And I think our minds automatically go to these extreme examples like Kirill Tereshin, or like some of these Brazilian guys that just do that. Like that's what... Let's get to a controversial one here. So we talked a little bit about the, I guess you would call it beef, between Hadi Choopan and his former manager, Hadi Parsifar. So basically they had a falling out, and Hadi Choopan was like copyright striking the YouTube channel that Parsifar owns. So they had, that was kind of like where their beef peaked, and they've had like kind of a long-standing back and forth of like some sketchy stuff that Parsifar was allegedly doing. And recently his brother, so Parsifar's brother, whose name is apparently also Hadi, which I thought was interesting, posted some stories in Arabic, and that's what this post by Buys and Tries here is referring to. And in those stories, he was referring to Hadi Choopan as Mr. Synthol. So he said, I'll just read what Buys and Tries wrote on their post, but this was in Arabic on his stories. Hadi Choopan and his manager Hadi Parsifar have recently parted ways. Shortly after that, Hadi received takedown notices for his YouTube channel, previously rebranded for Hadi. It's also worth mentioning that Hadi was called Mr. Synthol and Synthol People's Champion by Hadi Parsifar, who is Hadi Parsifar's brother. So I know it's kind of a confusing jumble of words here because all the names are so similar, but that's essentially the gist of this drama here, is they're calling him Mr. Synthol here, because whether or not Hadi uses site enhancement oil, which I think he does, and I think a lot of pros do, and it's a little bit more obvious on some than others, like Ian pointed out here, Hadi is still one of the best bodybuilders on the planet by the metric of his Olympia placings. He's still one of the most consistently conditioned bodybuilders by merit of his Olympia placings, and he's proven that against the best in the world. So regardless of what the site enhancement oil story is, if it's synthol or whatever else, it doesn't really matter. And again, that's separate to the discussion of how it's affecting his physique, and maybe, you know, is there too much, which I think is a different conversation. But the fact that he uses it at all, I think, is the root of this controversy here. And is the fact that he uses it really that big of a deal? I don't think it is. I would be willing to say that at minimum, and this is at minimum, the top 10 at the Olympia, I would say that 7 of the 10 are probably using site enhancement oil. 7 of the 10 at least. And to be completely honest, the ones that aren't using it are probably the ones that are 7th through 10th. They're probably on the bottom end of that top 10. So I just think it's something to think about, because we get these like negative perceptions in our heads, because we get these stereotypes like with the Russian synthol kid. When you think of synthol, or you think of SEOs in general, your mind immediately goes to these extreme examples of these guys that look ridiculous and their arms are nothing but oil. But the reality of the situation is these guys use this as like it's like a polish up. It's not like the entirety of their arm or their shoulder or whatever it is. It's not like that's the only thing that's there. And I think our minds automatically go to these extreme examples like Kirill Tereshin, or like some of these Brazilian guys that just do that. Like that's what they're known for. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's a very, very common thing in pro bodybuilding that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of